of storage. Okay. Hello,
I
welcome
love
to the
you.
Playground Experience. Hey, we got our own Sean here and April Williams, both of my dynamic co-hosts here tonight. And we know we have Miss Lovely Kathy D in spirit here. You just can't see her, but you know she's always in that other dimension, and she'll float in and float out and just send her frequencies to us. So how we doing? How we doing? How we doing with these energies? What's going on? What it be like? What it is? All that good stuff. I'm not gonna start about what's going on with me because I feel like it's kind of semi the same a little bit. Still trying to get control of things and trying to do some new things and try to put me first as a priority. That's one thing that I am doing. But I'm gonna let our special person, fresh from the wild. Look like I can see you coming from the trees, the forest, and trying to jump. Ooh, it's
No
me.
doubt.
To me, I thought it was like a sexy motorcycle gang or perhaps a cholo.
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
into that.
Solo. Okay.
Get your
Yeah,
breath.
closer to motorcycle, I guess, but I do speak a
Yes.
little Spanish.
So what's
Um,
going on with you, Sean?
I don't. I mean, I can't. I mean, I'm having a wonderful life. I would feel. I mean, I feel that 2021 kind of wrestled me down. Like, there were a lot of intense energies, but also intense circumstances that we are living through. And I held it together as long as I possibly could. Like I was like the little engine that could. And to be honest, if I look back at 2021, I am proud of myself. Like I feel that I did really good work. Like I feel that the biggest thing that I'm proud of for 2021 is that I refuse to accept no for an answer. Like I refuse to get despondent. And whereas other people were not seeing a way, I too was not seeing a way. But I said, but you know what? I'm going to find it. And I just kept going, and then I published my two manuals, and then I found the answer I was seeking. And there was a lot of work that went into that, and not just work in terms of the way I usually think about work, like intellectual work, but like heart, mind, heart, body, spirit. That was a multi-dimensional project, and it still is. But it's sort of, that was part one. The research and the how was part one, and then part two is the implementation. But because I was just so emotionally depleted, I just literally had to, be present with myself and be present with where I was and take a rest throughout. And then spirit sort of forced me to do that with that little foot injury that I had. You know, like a runner can't run so fast if the foot's not cooperating. You know what I mean? So it was time to sit still. It was time to be in that mode, and I listened and I obeyed, and I sort of got my priorities together on realizing that I do have PTSD. I had a my 3-year-old nephew who died 3 years ago, of cancer. And so with all this stuff that's happening with these so much of what we're living through is centered on the medical system, you know. And so I had to recognize that it's not even that I would judge myself in terms of not being able to be present in the way that I wanted to be under normal circumstances, but just recognizing the reality that these are very abnormal circumstances. And so it's not that there was anything wrong with me, but it's just that the universe gave me this opportunity to go even higher and go even deeper. And I answered that call, so to speak. And now in this particular week, the past few weeks, really, I feel like I'm reaping the rewards of obeying and listening and doing that work, because now it's like just sort of skating on clouds again. And it's kind of crazy because, the circumstances that we're living through, we're still living through them. But I'm much more optimistic now. I see a way out for a lot of people, and for most people actually. And I see as well that now that I've done some of that inner work, I can show up in the way that a month ago I probably wouldn't have been able to show up, and just be in my center and in my power, and I'm not out of gas. Like the tank's full again. And I sort of am, as I get older, learn more and more, learning how to fill up the tank before you get to the E. You know what I'm saying? So to sort of like keep a smooth flow. And so, and here I am with two beautiful women, and who bring such joy to my life on a daily basis. And thank you both for being on the journey with me. And
We love you, Sean.
Yes.
it's not that it's not a care in the world situation, but if there are cares, they're not bothering me. It's not. I'm not plucked by it. It's all. I've had a really beautiful week, and I had a really beautiful day. Just doing normal stuff. I mean,
Love
going to the
that.
grocery store and just being happy as hell. My pay, this is my little dip in income was this paycheck. But when that paycheck hit the account and I realized I had all my money for all my needs covered, last night, honey, I could have jumped out of my skeleton. Like I was just, and I'm just thinking, I wonder if billionaires ever get this happy. You know, like what I'm saying. I don't think they do. You know what I mean? Maybe they do, but maybe they do. Some of them do, but like it's sort of like I don't know. I just feel so loved by the universe, shall we say?
That is the similar vibes. Yeah, just reacquainting. Is that not even a word? But just it's like falling in love every day,
Yeah,
and the heaviness that was before is clearly gone. It's just a matter of stepping back into and realigning with that, and then I've been going through. It's been really nice because it's easier to hey Mimi, we love you. It's easier to fall in line with that highest energetics now, or the higher, and like have things slough off, and then hear things that were originally something you were attached to egoically, and being able to shed it and say, oh, I can see my perspective of that. I can also see the opposite perspective of that without a judgment or an attachment to it. And
right.
there's no, like, before I felt like I was grasping at a definition or some kind of semblance of understanding. Now I'm like, trust fall into the universe's arms and the extreme gratitude. And
Right.
it's lovely because even when because the old patterning of thinking is really ingrained, and when it attempts to go into that, my brain is just like, and the universe is like, no, we've got a lot of things to show you to the contrary. Now it's time for you to step into gear. And so
Mm,
it's really nice to willingly go into surrender
yeah.
and willingly, instead of, like you're saying, I love that analogy of the gas tank on E. Like, I don't need my gas tank to get on E. I know I'm going to need more gas, and I want to just be easy with it and go when there's no line, versus
Yeah.
needing gas. And then that desperation, there's everybody suddenly needing gas, right? And then you've got a huge line, and then you've got all this time, and then it seems like everybody's watching you for whatever reason, versus, you know what, might as well get gas today. I'm thankful that I got the money to go get the gas. Let me just fill up the tank. Let me just enjoy the cruise. I could just ride around without having to think about anything that puts me in that scarcity mindset. And so it's been a real freedom from that process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling too. The trust fall into the universe like really resonates with my moment because I went through a similar cycle. Maybe January is a sort of time, one of the cycles for me that organically, where I see that little like, oh, okay, I know that this is going to be a light time for me as far as stuff like that. But it's sort of like in the past where I've responded with fear. It's like I had a moment where it's like, shouldn't I be afraid right now, or shouldn't I be, like, shouldn't I have this sort of like emotional response that I'm used to having? And it just wasn't there. And instead, there was just acceptance and peace, and just knowing that I'm being looked after and knowing that everything falls into place. And so, yeah, the trust fall into the universe is exactly it. And, for me, that's not even something I ever thought I would be able to experience. I'm kind of a type A type person, but having that moment, it just I almost like surprised myself. Like I almost surprised myself with being able to open up and receive in that moment. You
I've been actively seeking to allow myself to receive, because I found, like, I'm going through the mental rehearsing, right? There's a lot of like preparation, right? Which is still the dying of the old fear paradigm, right? You want to like brace for impact, but it's like nothing's
Right.
actually happening to me in particular. Yes, there's happening existential or like actually externally. There's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
happening, a lot of shifting going on, but thankfully, I'm in God's graces where I've been missed with the bullshit, so I can just sit here and do what a mission is, right? And when you're procrastinating, right, it's funny because the universe, all of this is not playing with you. It is clearly telling you stuff. So all of a sudden, the theme changes in the show you're watching or whatever it is you're trying to procrastinate, and it's like, do your work. You just don't want to seem to sit with yourself, and it's like, it's like, all right, universe, you got jokes. You spilling the tea all over, whatever show I'm watching. I hear you. I see you. I'm releasing these demons, you know what I mean? In a way that isn't like demons are bad. It's more like, hey, that was useful for a time, or hey, I can see how other people are working within that construct, but I got out and I know they're going to get out too. Because it's not just for me. I got to win thing. It's we're all winning. We're all
Mm.
gonna win. Now you just need to let yourself win what you actually want. And so when you start to think about the things that I wanted, I could hear my own resistance. And
Mhm.
so I was like, oh, I've got to let that go. I'm excited to let that go. I'm thankful I can see it from this perspective and that perspective, right? Because you want to make sure you've edged out all of those little things because of the subconscious old paradigms of self-sabotage. We're
Yes.
no longer able to actively self-sabotage, or no, passively self-sabotage. You have
Right.
to actively self-sabotage now. Like you
Yes.
have to be like, I'm doing this and I know it's bad for me and I'm going to do it anyway. And then you're like, slap on the wrist, and then the universe is like, I saw that coming a million miles away and now I know not to do it. And so when you have the opportunity to make that choice again, you actually are choosing into the righteousness because we're all stepping into that space. So I really enjoy it. I really love watching the world unfold in its power and its understanding. And I'm seeing a lot of evidence of people who are in the ruling class. I don't know how to. I would love better words for that. But they're coming out and they're being like, no, some of this stuff just isn't working and it's totally corrupt. And it's really nice to hear that. It's really nice to feel comforted by an another's governmental agency saying we need to take better care of ourselves as people. We need to take
Mm.
better care of. We are the people. We're not just this entity that's separate from the people, and
Mhm.
and it's nice, but everything's crumbling.
Yeah.
Everything's crumbling
In
in a
a
good.
controlled flow. So what the ruling class, what we're looking at now is mostly pantomime and CGI, you know. And so it's sort of like I've heard someone describe it as what they're doing now is that they're still programming you, but now they're programming you with the truth, because that what they had to do was they had to reverse engineer a century's worth of propaganda, you know, and it would be too much at one time for people. Like not everybody's like me in that, I got the esoteric awakening and the exoteric awakening at the same time, and in my early 20s, so like I've been working both of those levels this whole time, and so like for like 15 years, and so like so not everybody had that vantage point as I did, so for people like me who've been awake as long as I have, it's like this is going painstakingly slow, or it was until very recently, and now it's like, oh yes, this is picking up, and we see it now through. But what they had to do was they had to literally reverse engineer the subtle propaganda, because propaganda had gotten very subtle, had gotten very subliminal and liminal, and it had gotten really pervasive to where you think you're watching a movie and you're enjoying yourself, but there's maybe this much programming in there, and now like
Mhm.
now that like I said, they're using those exact same tactics on a measured, steady pace that is escalating now. And so because of that, they did that so as not to shock the public and leave the potential open for people to be manipulated into a civil war scenario. So it's actually really brilliant the way they did it, and it's really ingenious. And we are all, like April said, bearing witness to it now, and it's beautiful. And it's not necessarily that these people who were doing dastardly things before became good people all of a sudden, but now they're under a different gun. And or now, maybe they're CGI puppets who can be manipulated by good people.
Yeah, I agree with you all about now in moving into the energies of more so of I guess even in the tarot cards where they say the fool's journey and where you just really just fall. The card has you falling. Different versions of the card have either people falling backwards or either forwards into it. And I think right now where we are is it's just a matter of really trusting, no matter if you're falling forward into something or you falling back into something and really not knowing. Because forward, you can kind of see, okay, I'm going to do it, and I'm jumping off this cliff in Hawaii, and whew, I'm doing it, and I can see it. Or you doing it and say, I don't know who's got me and supporting me, but guess what? I'm just going to fall back and just let it happen. So you have either it's two different ways of how we're taking this journey right now at this point, and they brought that to my attention. Also, one thing I was listening the other day, and I was like, "That's a good question." And they was like, "Are you enjoying the journey?" Because I think a lot of times with us on this journey, we're so busy, and I'm not saying it's us here. Yeah, I'm talking to a friend, for a friend, and saying that a lot of times we're looking for the destination at the end, but we're not enjoying as we're going along. And that's good to hear. That I think that we have shifted into that energy where we are actually, liking like, oh, okay, this comes, this challenge, okay, Before we were like the Matrix, like now it's just like, okay, come on, come at me, and the hands is doing that supersonic kind of thing. It's no more trying to dodge the bullet. It's like, okay, come. It's been overdue. It's time. Let me go on ahead and take this thing on and see what I can learn from it. I even found myself having an issue and a challenge here, and I was like, you know what? I said, I'm gonna thank you for you coming because it helped me. I've been saying for a long time I needed to clean up this area. It never did get done. I was trying to get other people, family members on board. They were like, no, leave it like it is. I like it with all this clutter. And then when the situation it came, I was like, you know what? I'm so glad, although it was a bad thing, a challenging thing that we had us have to clean up the area. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? If that didn't come, we wouldn't have cleaned up. Like I said, I wanted to get all rid of the junk, and thank God that was a prime opportunity through that challenge that it presented itself for the actual thing that I wanted to happen. And I think now, if you would have had me last time, I would have been through either anxiety or PTSD, would have just freaked out. Oh my God, it's something I did wrong. I didn't pray right. I missed the meditation. I said something wrong. That's karma hit me in the back. And so it's no more about the karmic lessons. It's more so, okay, I know it came because it made me better. Matter of fact, I'm not even using the word karma, in my lingo about it. It's just like, okay, it's something that has to come. And so that's an interesting perspective that I've seen that we are really truly showing that we are growing. And this is really, and enjoying the ride. Like we're saying, if you say get your motor run, and well, if you're doing that, catch up on the highway. So if you're doing that, you're actually on your bike and really looking at the view and enjoying it instead of being in your car, really enveloped, or your SUV or truck, and you're being protected. It's like, no, I want to feel the wind. I want to see it mess up my hair. I want to really smell everything and take in everything on this journey as I'm going, and the curves that come along, and all this other stuff. So this, I really truly feel that we're moving into that energies now too as well. I know we talked about the retrograde too before we got on here. We say it stops at February 3rd, and you got that shadow aspect that goes on where it's kind of waning out, but it's just kind of like still lingering around. It's like a person, the last person at the party. You're like, your time is up. And they're like, wait a second, one more drink. And you're like, no, let me put the lights on because you must evidently don't know the club is shut down. Like I said, it's time to go. I mean, it's time to go. So we had that little extra remnants of energies left from that. But this has truly been, although it has slowed things down, made us be more introspective, more read. And I know I've heard a lot of people say on the videos on YouTube saying that, this one is not going to be a bad retrograde. It's going to be a welcomed one. And I
Mm.
do see what they're saying. It came, but the blows were more softer, especially if you had done the work. And since we said about PTSD, and then I did say on this, and I titled this about traumas. And so I think all of us have now kind of shifted, and I thank Sean and give him credence to that. That understanding that we got to handle the mental aspect. Now, we've been for a long time talking about the soul, the spirit, the spirit, soul, and body, and handling those things. But or the mind, body, and spirit, we have not been really tackling really the mind thing as far as making sure that we're getting balance. And I know definitely through his group, we touched upon it on our own. We just scraped the surface, but he has through his twin flame therapy group has really made us say, no, let's kind of dig a little deeper. Maybe you might need to get assistance or go outside about dealing with these traumas. And I'm reading the book by Nicole LaPera, and she was talking about again how you are traumatized and maybe don't even know it. And so that was interesting how she had kind of unlayered it and saying about just the different aspects of growing up and how that, with me, I'm on that childhood thing because through that, doing that, that helps me to heal as well. But she was saying about the trauma and how we experience it and how it, again, is experienced through our body, how it's hold, how the body keeps score, all those different things. And a lot of times she said, even her, she's like, oh, no, I haven't experienced trauma. But when she kind of unpacked it, she was like, oh my God, it's so subtle. You don't know that you have experienced it. She is talking about disassociation and how her simply, and I said, oh my God, that sounds like me, how she simply can't remember some things from her childhood or people. It's like, I can't remember. They're like, yeah, Bertina, you remember from high school? I like, no, I don't remember.
Mhm.
And how again how that the blacking out because of traumatic issue things have happened. And I remember also my mentor, she used to tell me, watch it, stop trying to like separate yourself because one time when you and cut it off from your memory, because when you want to do it, your mind will be in that automatic stuff like forget it, delete. This is my mind, delete. Delete. Okay, I wanted that memory. No, too late. Delete. Automatic because of how we have onset it for disassociation through a traumatic experience. So I know Sean was the one that had brought it on it. So I don't want to disappoint the people because they're like, I'm over here for trauma. What they talking about? So let's go in to the trauma aspect because he's the expert on it. We're experts through experience, but he is the person that knows about the trauma. So tell us, you say, let's talk about that. So tell us a little bit about why, I'll get them, why you felt that it was, like you said, there we go. Why it was important for us to, you wanted to touch upon that subject about trauma.
Well, the body keeps the score, but the mind keeps the score as well.
Right.
And so what I'm seeing with so many twin flame people is that it becomes this involuntary mental emotional response, right, to a particular person or a type of connection or a type of connectee. And what happens is all of it involuntarily, all these things come out of you that you didn't know were inside of you until they came out of you, and until
True.
that experience mirrored that to you. And it does connect to these attachment disorders, and it does connect to, are you avoidant, or are you anxious, or are you
Right.
like where do you where do you fall on that spectrum? And if you look at runner chaser or whatever, it's just precisely that. It's precisely that. We had these, and we were. we were all systematically, we were systemically abused in that way through bad parenting counsel, through bad parenting advice. And we have like two or three generations that fit that description at least. And probably everyone since the boomers, really. And so that would be like three or four generations, really. And so that what as twin flame people, like we manifest what is inside of us, and we have the abilities to sort of step back and see it, and that just seeing people make the same mistakes over and over and over again, and that it's all coming about in roughly the same way. I believe in holistic healing, so of course you have to address the body, you have to address the karma, you have to address the soul, you have to address the spirit, but don't leave out the mental emotional. And
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but I do think that like there's a certain way, there's a certain plane that is maybe an area that fewer people in this community are focusing on, and than in other communities, and whereas other communities maybe they're not aware of the more spiritual side of it, or the mind body connection, or the importance of healing the body to heal other parts of yourself. So it's kind of like, if you, from my vantage point, working in mental health, I get to see how this plays out, not just with twin flame people, but with people who are deeper in karma. And they're doing the same thing. They just don't have the same sort of tools in their toolbox to step back and become more deeply aware of it. So I do think it is within our purview and within our ability to shift it, and to shift it rapidly, honestly. But it does take some work, and it does take some taking that part seriously and saying that, like, no, clearly I am traumatized because this is what I manifested. You know, and I manifested a replay of this core wound that probably formed before I was able to form memory. So like
Mm-hmm.
this is a pattern. You talk about that as your first memory, and I
Right.
and I and I had a first memory that I think was very similar. It was in the crib, and no one's showing up. That was and at this point, it's for me, it's a memory of a memory, right? But even if I can't access it directly through the part of the brain that forms memory and communication and all that, it's still in there, to where it's very, very deeply ingrained with us, this concept that love, we cannot trust love.
Right.
We cannot, or that we can expect the world to be cruel and to leave us out to die, because in those moments, that's what we believe. We didn't have an ego at that stage, so we didn't have the same level of our whole world was everyone else around us, so we felt like we were dying in those moments. And
So
yeah. And so that trauma got, that's so deeply inside of us, and we're recreating it. We're recreating it in multiple directions. And as we ascend, and as we wish to ascend into a twin flame union, if you think about how big those emotions are, right? It's like within that connection, because it's always outside and inside. I feel this other person from the inside, I feel this other person from the outside, and vice versa. So like whatever we're throwing at each other, it just gets amplified by the energetics of the connection. So we need to be able to stand within that connection, without that fear, and without recreating the same pattern that we've been recreating. And my perspective with respect to this, there's so many things that we do have to do on this journey, but this piece is important, and it's a piece where I think a lot of people are stuck.
Yeah. Go on, April.
um there's several. I'm just learning about EMDR. Did I say it right finally? So it's very subtle. We talked about that, how trauma can be placed, right? But in my book, because we just talked about the somatic trauma that we carry throughout this lifetime, and then also the mental um, interweaving of that. But our cells come from our parents and our grandparents, and according to the research of Billy Carson from Forbidden Knowledge, who does a lot of like Egyptology stuff, and um, hacking through like the DNA, getting into vibrational alignment, how to work your energetics and stuff like that. He says that it's passed down in the DNA, because the DNA is a memory system. He says 14 generations. And I would say, maybe even further from the original cell, right? Because everything has memory in it, especially when you're thinking that we're primarily bodies of water. So if we are these memory keepers, we're holding and have to, I say have to because there's a level of freedom that comes with taking on the responsibility. Like you get to work through these levels of trauma, these levels of ego pain that may or may not be yours, but you could stand in that power. Even when your ancestry, because there's a lot of mixed ancestry too, of people who were at war with each other or killed each other. And there's a lot of people that have that inner dialogue that has us at war with each other. So even though we're no longer in a physical battle, our body is used to there being that sense of urgency and that level of stress response. So it creates it, whether it's in existence or not, simply because it's holding that memory. So if your grandparents, let's say, created your mother and father during the Great Depression, they're going to have a lot of these issues with lack, with having to, hold on to things, which means a whole generation of people are going to have a propensity for obesity. Even though they might have been thin when they were starving, they still had all the cortisol responses and stuff like that, even at that time when they were created, and they created their grandchildren's eggs in their parents, so they're carrying these levels of propensity of things that they are having issues fighting with, right? So taking the time to just say, okay, fuck it, here it is. There's no person on this planet as of right now, and there may be some coming in soon, but only when we clear the path for them to have less trauma. Because it's not a matter of them having no trauma. The fact of being born is a traumatic experience. Leaving yourself from the great divine and going into the human experience can be quite an energetic shift that could be considered so overwhelming that it is traumatic, right? Because we talked about trauma in the group, and I like the analogy of trauma is when you have an experience that overloads you to the point where you have a coping mechanism, any kind of coping mechanism. So the analogy now is having a piece of cake versus eating an entire sheet cake, right? One piece of cake you can handle, but you can't. You try to eat an entire cake, you're gonna go into like, so you're gonna feel full and uncomfortable. You'll probably have the sugar sweats. There's all kinds of stuff that's gonna come up for you. You might hate cake for the rest of your life after trying to eat an entire sheet cake. You know, because that's too much for the body to handle. That's too much. That's a greater too much capacity. But what we do is when we're finally able to free ourselves, we open up into a space of, where am I experiencing trauma? Okay, now I'm going to allow myself to open into the space where and it's in a safe environment that I can maybe handle this experience a little bit. And then you can handle more and more of that experience. And so the goal is to create a space within yourself that you grow greater and greater capacity for the things that you really want to enjoy. And a lot of times, people have pushed away their enjoyment because they're afraid of enjoying, because they know that eventually, or they think that eventually, it has to get back to this level of stress or trauma. But that stress or trauma was artificial. It only happened because there was overwhelm, because there was no mitigating that at the time. But now we get to relearn in our body that it's safe to be in our bodies, that it's safe to feel that connection with the divine, that it's okay to be and receive love. Like a lot of people, especially empaths, they love to give love. They want to help fill the energetic longings of others, but they no longer really see what their energetic needs are. And so they often suffer from burnout, or just overwhelmed because they don't want to look at the fact that, oh, I'm suffering too. It's easier when I'm removed from suffering and other people are suffering, and then I can just give and give and give. But that is itself another layer of trauma. And that was one of the things I learned from my therapist was compound trauma. So
Right.
if you don't ever actually process the first trauma, and then you have a second trauma and a third, well, we haven't processed several generations of trauma.
Right.
And so now we're in the space where we're finally, a lot of us are allowed to process trauma. Some of us are still actively going through, but once we realize that we're all one, that's when we say collectively, enough is enough. And it's starting and it's happening in waves. The ocean is wearing down the mountain one wave at a time, one breath at a time, or like breeze, just slowly breaking it down in all the ways that it can, similar to how we go at the multi-pronged approach of taking our health back. We do the nutrition thing, we do the meditation, the mindfulness thing, we do the releasing, the shadow work, we do some of the journaling, and we do some of the physical stuff where we start moving the body. Maybe we yoni steam, maybe we king steam, maybe we, there's several different ways, because I don't like that analogy of the cat thing. I like to say there's several ways to the number nine.
Okay.
But we're all approaching that number nine thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I see all that, and that's a you kind of like hit the nail on the head in terms of like we recreate these things and we don't have to, and that's the whole point. Is that what we're living through right now is steadily this big oppressive superstructure that's kind of kept us all under a certain type of thumb and has been deliberately creating and recreating traumas because we're easier to control where when we're in a state of persistent trauma is sort of being like gradually lifted off of us, and then our work going forward for perhaps the next 100 to 200 years is going to be to relearn how to just be and how to just be as the divine human without that force coming down upon us. So we are the generation that is having this conversation for a reason. Like we're the ones who are going to have to steadily, like really truly heal the past to release, because once that oppressive structure is gone, it's up to us to not recreate it. It's up to us to not have to continue to abuse ourselves because that's what we're used to. So that's what we're here to be, is to be brand new. And of course, you're talking about the epigenetics of it, the 14 generations of DNA memory. There's that plane of it. And then there's the karma and the past life traumas that you brought to this plane as well. So we have whatever we live through while we're in this body, and a lot of us chose some more difficult paths there. And then we have our own like soul's life, like past life karma and all that. And then we have like what April was describing in terms of like what we have inherited from the epigenetics. And what a lot of times parents don't understand is that yes, I would tell you 100%. I had from a certain uh, vantage point of analysis a less traumatic childhood than my parents did. Both of my parents had more traumatic childhoods than I did. But what they failed to recognize is that they did pass on those epigenetics to me, and there was the epigenetics of it in terms of it literally came down through the blood, through the gametes, through the sperm and the egg, but it also came back down through them not healing themselves and then trying to raise other humans. And then because they were not healed themselves and trying to raise other humans, they behaviorally recreated similar traumas to that which they experienced, even if there were certain factors that were quite different. So it is cumulative, and it does ball up inside of us, and that's part of why we contract with these genetic lineages, because it's sort of like an equal exchange. Like we get this physical vehicle to do our work here, and then they get their lines cleaned up through the work that we do.
And that's what the young lady had said in the book that I'm reading there too, about the traumas. And she was saying that when we experience traumas, it one thing, it disconnects us from, really, it depending on what it is, but it does disconnect us from our intuition and our awareness. Because if those things, let's say if somebody was sexually abused, And
Yeah.
she gave an example of the person saying that the uncle had told her, now this is secret, don't tell anybody, because if you do, you're going to get into trouble. And the young lady's thinking I was one of her clients, saying, but this is wrong. Like, I shouldn't be doing this with my uncle. Something's wrong. So then starts the disconnection there of them saying, I can't trust my intuition because you're saying one thing, you're an adult, but at the same time, my intuition is saying this ain't right, this isn't right. And so that is one way in which some of the traumatic experiences help makes us connect, have that disconnect to our intuition and awareness. And on this journey, this is something heavily that is really pushed, that we got to get back into our intuition and our awareness. And so there goes the struggle from us. And like you're saying, also with the parents, them not knowing. And she broke it down in so many ways, about different ways about the parents and how they're experiencing their pain, and they're putting it on us from the parent that wants to live vicariously through you. And that causes a trauma because they're telling you, you're not good enough. And she was saying how really what is happening with them is because they believe that their life was a failure, and so that's why they extra put that push, push, push on you. If they're vicariously living through you, like, no, you got to be perfect for the beauty pageant. It's got to be XYZs, because again, somewhere in their life, either they want to live through you, or again, they feel like they didn't experience being that basketball player or something, like she said in the book. And she was saying it also in about trauma. Trauma keeps you in the past, but it doesn't help you to be grounded in the present, because you keep on reliving about what happened in the past, what happened into the past. And so that's another layer of what trauma also brings to the table. And that is why, like I said, we at this point, in order for us, and I always say we got to pack light. Some of us, that is what Kathy D says, is that little coffee stain that's still in the corner of the coffee pot that you saying, darn, I thought I cleaned it well, but it's saying, no, you got to look at this and seeing about it. Not only the trauma now, and that might be that coffee stain or that thing in the pot that you can't get, is the past lives, how you are really recreating off that old template of how you were able to solve. Like you said, because of the traumatic experience, it makes you to kind of solve and see things based upon either how your parents' pain body had experienced and templated on you, or imprinted on you, or impressed upon you, or how that past life is done, and now you're experiencing it in the now, and how it's impressing upon you to act, to react in a certain way based upon that trauma. Which maybe if you were be able to take that and remove that out of your DNA or your mindset of how you react to things, you will see things a little bit more clearer. But because of that trauma, it's like you really got muddy glasses on, and you're not really being able to see the perspective of things as is. So what are some, and this is leading me on to that, so what are some forms of trauma?
Hmm. Well, loss, grief, loss, violence, violation. These are the common ones. It's sort of anything that sort of like sticks to the ribs, shall we say? It's like
Okay.
something that it's not just something that every little trifling thing doesn't have to be a trauma. Like these are typically things that sort of impact us in profound ways, such as that.
Yeah, and it was also, I don't know what I was listening to even on Spotify. They were talking about, the young man was saying that he looked around the world, and he was like, to him it looks like we're still um grieving about some things. And so, really, for me, I could even say about I call it the panda, with what's going on with the panda. It brought up a lot of something in my system about very much bringing out this anxiety that I believe that has been experienced on both lines of my parents, going all the way back into also slavery, because again of how the panda has limited our movement, limit some of our speech in some ways about what we're saying and being able to stand up for our rights and things about to get or not to get. That is the question. Uh, and this also brings on another layer of, like you're saying, seeing that you have to deal with the anxiety or the angst as well that goes with this. So this, to me, if you had not been traumatized before in your life, and you say you had a flawless or a spotless childhood or false, I think with current events for some, this might be a traumatic event for them too as well. And this is bringing up some things that we have to deal with, or it might tap into some past lives aspect, or it could also tap into what has happened to us from our childhood. So this is something that I believe that also is like being pushed out of us. It's almost, I'm seeing like it's coming from our inside and going through all the different layers of the different bodies. And for some of us, it's kind of like it's stuck and it's got to be kind of released either through the crown, like you told me, the crown chakra, or to be released because it's just that one part of giving birth to it and to actually release this traumatic. And I'm in agreement with that. I think for us, that is the last part of us not only having union with the person, but even with ourselves, that we can't get settled because I think also anxiousness or PTSD is happening for, I think I heard that on somebody else's video, is one of the things that a lot of twin flames or light workers or divines are really having to deal with in their imprinting. And that's something, the part of their journey that they need to address, and they just don't know about it. Because even sometimes I even say for myself, even experiences with the twin, myself or my DM has been um, anxious. I even told him that. He's like, "Why you feeling anxiety?" I said, "I don't know,
Hmm.
but I do feel it." So, and now that I'm unpacking and doing a lot of reading and self-help books and things of that nature up until this time, until I make the next step for the therapist and getting that settled, I'm seeing that, like you say, there are a mirror, but they're really telling us, like, here, you maybe need to look in this area that we have not really turned over that stone, literally, and to see, like, oh, this anxiety about everything. You just be surprised about how it shows up from the trauma and how it's planted that seed for us as far as our anxiety as well.
Yeah.
I like to say, there's things right? Because we're all doing the work. If you're here right now and you're listening to this, you're doing the work. You've been doing the work. There's the things you know. There's the things you don't know. But there's also the things you don't know. And there's
Yeah.
always that. And the more you learn, like that's why I never really understood how I get it. You can say I know these things and I can help you with this situation. But to say you're the end and beginning of something, that's very pompous. It's very old world, like egoic stuff, right? So there's always going to be something that we don't know. There's always going to be something that maybe we don't exactly get about ourselves or maybe our perspective, because there's still the three sides to every story, right? Your side, the other side, and then the actual truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so leaving room for there to be a truth even better and greater than you can comprehend gives space for the universe to start working in your favor and bringing you what it is you actually desire. And so as this time happens and the beauty of the Venus retrograde, it's like, oh, I'm really finding out what I don't like and what I do find attractive. And then even within myself, right? Because the Mercury retrograde and the Venus retrograde together are very interesting because your communication is kind of forced to slow down and start to be really immaculate in order to seek and create the pleasure you desire despite what's going on, right? And so I think a lot of people are hearing themselves a lot clearer. A lot of people are letting go of things that maybe they're ashamed of, or they hurt themselves or they hurt others, and they're like, I can let go of this now. I can finally be free of this now because I'm no longer associating the judgment as it being part of my ego to either make me a bad person or smaller or to make me better than someone and all that. We realize that there is no hierarchy. There just is. And so, what's the next level of is? It becomes more embodying. It's no longer fight or flight or running away and just checking out. It's like you don't need to stay busy to be busy, I guess, for
Mhm.
lack of a better phrasing.
Yeah, well, and in the collective sense, yeah, that's you sort of like zoomed in on the micro level there, but in the macro level, the collective sense, it's the same thing, because it wasn't just the panda wasn't just isn't just a genocide campaign, it's also a re-enslavement campaign, right? So, I was having all sorts of past like flashbacks to Babylonian slave auctions when people were wearing masks all the time, that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
you do see that they're down here. It's very stark. Like you can almost predict, and it's not one to one, but you can almost more or less guess whether or not someone's going to wear a mask in a store by what color their skin is. And people with my color skin don't, and people with yours do.
Mhm.
And part of that is what you were talking about, those epigenetics from slavery. And I'm reminded of Maya Angelou's poem for Old Black Men, where she talks about, my fathers sit on benches, their flesh count every plank. The slat sleeve dents of darkness deep in their withered flank, and they gnarled like broken candles, all waxed and burnt profound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round. There in the polluted places, faces, I see the auction block, the width of slavery's coffers. Oh no, now I missed it. I'm gonna have to get back to it, but I'm gonna have to get back to it. But that's that concept right there. It was our submission that made your world go round. And I meditated on those epigenetics, right? And how many people that are closer to that point of enslavement, because my people were enslaved too, just farther back, you know, but explicitly, and really we still are. But we're talking about chattel slavery, where you're treated like livestock, right?
Mhm.
that that response, this is what these powerful people are doing, and our best collective survival strategy is to go along with it, right? It's deep set. It's not just a conscious decision. It's deep in the subconscious that comes through, and those epigenetics come through, and it's like I said, where I live, it's starkly visible. How that comes back through. And then what we are now experiencing, though, as more and more of this truth comes out, is this collective response that says, no, we are not going to submit to being re-enslaved. You know, we are going to stand up for our rights, and we're going to say that no, we're not going to take this. And so it's sort of like it's a mixed bag in terms of who made a certain choice and who didn't make a certain choice, and who is making certain choices now and who isn't making certain choices now. But the data is very clear. People who believed certain people who have been lying to us a year ago more are getting fewer and fewer. Like now, fewer and fewer people are believing it. And so this is an unprecedented opportunity for the whole world to, in a singular voice, stand up and say, no, and not just no, but hell no, and not just no
Mhm.
and hell no, but you know what? Maybe it's time for you to reap what you've been sowing. If you're one of those people who've been trying to push us down in this way.
Yay!
Yeah, yeah, it's high time. So that's, we talk about like generational trauma in that way. And the big I personally am looking forward to that part of the healing, the part of the healing where we can have adult conversations, which is coming up very soon because the court has ordered the FDA to release 55,000 pages of documents per month now. So the entire truth about the whole thing really is going to be international public knowledge within 6 to 8 months. you know
Get your teacups, everybody.
yeah.
Do you need lemon? Do you need honey? Well, you better get it ready because they are about to pour out the tea, people.
It's for real,
And it's hot. It's piping hot.
and who else wears face masks? Executioners, right?
It's coming
So
in hot.
you have the people that they're trying to, and they know what they're doing. By the way, they know about the genetic memory of Babylon. They know about the genetic memory of this. They were trying to bring forth your slave mentality. That's why they told us to wear these masks. It had nothing to do. I mean, they're actually even Anthony Fauci herself co-wrote a paper about the Spanish flu, which they admitted that most people in the Spanish flu died of secondary bacterial infections in the lungs, not of the pathogen itself, which was another injection, by the way. It was created by another injection campaign, just like what we're
Whoa.
living through now. And so he knew that with these masks that cause more bacterial buildup in those things, put more bacteria in the lungs. They knew that they were making you sicker. But the point was, they did it was never about anything other than the depopulation and trying to push everyone back down. It was trying to say, no, you guys are getting too close to free, and we've got to, in a very wide scale, put everybody back under our thumb forcibly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they'll use those epigenetics and those past life aspects of us because they're, at the very tip top, they're aware of it. Not your run of the mill, your petty tyrant, but at a certain level, there's Luciferian Gnostics that are at the top of that pyramid, and so like dark sided Gnostics, but the thing about being Gnostic is that we're all seeing the same thing. So if you're a light-sided dark Gnostic or a dark-sided Gnostic, you're seeing the same reality. You're just making different choices.
That's
That's
mm-hmm.
that's what that boils down to. So they've been playing with us and they've been playing with the subconscious, but I think that they have now poked a beast that is bigger than they bargained for. So I mean, we are winning and we've already won. Really, it just all has to play out.
Yeah, and I know I had did that in my prophecy about this year, which was again a lot of voice of people groups are coming together, speaking on one topic and really giving a strong voice about what they like and about leadership and how they're leading. That was written in the Bible about that.
Yeah.
So that stuff is really coming to the forefront. This is saying to me 6 months, but we'll see. It might go by fast. It's like I
Yeah.
like to know now what's going on if you're gonna spill the tea. But that's
Yeah.
all right. As far as getting the
I think we
information.
got to go through the Scorpio retrograde season
Okay.
because there's
Okay.
a lot of like death and like the super corrupt stuff that I was hearing about, like people who are riddled with demons and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's this is the end of this year is when all that stuff. Yeah, that's when all this stuff comes out. It's kind of sunny, but
Sunny.
all right, it's my sunny and it's sunny.
It's sunny. It's sunny. That means it's a new
Now I've got a monster.
sunset coming. All right.
Ow! Stop! Oh
Yeah.
wow! My hair is caught in this monster truck.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. It's sunny. So that means the sun is coming out. Got
Stop
new
pulling it,
horizons
please.
on the way. So
Okay.
you heard it here from our own little tapping in.
Let the sun shine in. Let the sun shine in. The sun shine in.
That's right. That's right. That's what the Aquarius says. That's all. They're supposed to match that together.
Well, this is the end of the Dark Ages, people. Like, it's not the beginning of the Dark Ages, it's the end of the Dark Ages. So, when all is lost, when all is for naught, or at least you feel it is, just remember this is literally the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is all altruism and everything going. Yeah, Saturn is having some issues with control. But
Yeah.
that's like the nature of Saturn. It's like restructuring so that it works for everybody, not just the select few. Bruh, I don't know where your monster truck is, man.
Yeah, that's why they got that pouring. That's all I used to think. And Aquarius is our water sign. It's like, no, it's air. I said, but the sign got the person pouring. What that mean? So again, about humanity, making sure everybody evenly gets some from the cup, from the vessel, as well. So that's the thing about the community and coming together. That's usually what they're humanitarian that they like about social issues and conscious and bringing together, which is what the Aquarius. But also think about innovation and out of the box ideas too, as
Yeah.
well. So that's what the Aquarius sign kind of brings to.
And they also have the ability to be like, F off. Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Aquarius is like, I thought Capricorn was king of the curve, but Aquarius is like, and we're done.
Right.
Right? So things that don't need to be are finally going to be abolished.
Yeah,
Keep going. But
yeah.
always like that.
Yeah,
Always like that.
those energetics are already here. We are already now in the age of Aquarius.
Yeah,
And
we already here. Right.
the water that the water bearer is bearing is of course spirit. It's a symbol of spirit that comes through the air element, which is really our thoughts, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
it allows for spirit to come through our conscious awareness. So like we're gonna have a collective experience of this reckoning. Like we're gonna have a collective experience of saying, you guys tried to do this to us yet again, and now we're going to say, we're not going to leave any stone unturned. It's time to take down the whole apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
Leave nothing, no ember left to aflame anew. So that we can transition into this golden age. So we are there. And April's doing great work with redefining parenting. So you're doing that style of work, and then we're all doing the work of healing the minds so that we can repair the damage and then leave the door wide open for the next generations to come in. And the crystal children are already coming in, so the crystal children are new souls, and
Mm-hmm.
so they're already here, and of course they're experiencing this hiccup of what we're going through now. But I believe in real healing, and I believe in healing and being brand new, and I believe in that within this body, within that body, within that body, within all of our bodies, if we choose to do so, we can have the level of freshness and the level of connection and spiritual union, divine union, sacred union that we are aiming to get. And that's sort of the piece that we're looking at now, is that what have I collected in this body that is preventing me from doing that, based on what is subconsciously driving me without me realizing it. And then on the macro level, it's looking at that same thing. If these people have been manipulating you through your emotions primarily, through your emotions and through implants in your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and training you in a Pavlovian fashion, to respond emotionally based on thoughts. Like that's the whole thing. It's like they know that everybody's got this trauma, so they find ways to recreate that with this trigger. And that's, if you look at the years that were leading up to the panda, right? That's what they were doing. They were priming everyone to be emotionally disturbed and emotionally
Mm-hmm.
disturbed, in a way. People called it Trump derangement syndrome. They were manipulating everybody, and that's why I would say back then that neo-fascism is a new style of governance, whose centerpiece is persistent pan-directional trauma. That's the style of governance that we lived through between 2015 and 2020. Then in 2020 it became just outright commie fascism. You know,
Yeah.
so it was neo-fascism leading into commie-fascism, and now we're wading back down. And I think the next social order is going to be very much about, well, now we're living through devolution. So what's happening now is that it's a controlled demolition of every aspect of it. So it's media apparatus, government apparatus, private sector apparatus, that kind of thing. So now we're living through devolution, and then what comes next, we decide. And I personally see neo-tribalism, but with some degree of statecraft as well. So like people will be able to more freely associate based on how they feel themselves to be. We won't have to stay scattered and separate anymore as like the high vibe people. So if people of our vibration want to start geographically concentrating ourselves, that will be permitted after this period of time, because the threats will no longer be there. So like people will be able to more freely associate, but there will also be some degree of wanting to organize socially, so that we don't have competition for resources between the different tribal groups. That's what I
Yeah.
see in it.
Yeah. That's exact, and that came out in the Psalms in the Bible about the tribes. Yep.
Yep.
Exactly. So what you're saying about no tribe, I had tapped into that channel and said no tribes. whatever is no identity of black and white. It just be more so of almost like what Martin Luther King said, character, or it's other things based upon intrinsic things that we might feel that we are having a kinship to. So that came out. So that's
Yeah.
what we are. You know, a lot of times if we don't see it happening in this year, and I know when I do my prophecies, I prophesy from that. It's going to make its way and keep on into the next following year until it just becomes to be. So I can second that. That yes, the universe has second what you're saying as far as what the world is going to turn out to be, as far as that tribalistic approach to that. I think this is a good way for us to start. I love what Sean had said there, and I think that's a lovely ending to put there. So let's go ahead and do our community um, tab. So what's going on? Starting off with you, Sean. I know he did a lovely, and I put that in the community tab too as well. Video between him and David, a soul mission himself, talking about the sexual, what it would say, sexual trauma, or what different dealing with the sexual issues that goes on with the divine masculine, or being a male and having the divine masculine energies too as well. So make sure it's in the community tab that you go and check that video out. Got a lot of good golden nuggets in it. A lot. So you can understand. I like that. I like even like things like what he's doing, and like when Lee and Sherry and they do the soul chat for the men's perspective. It's always good because you think about a female, but we don't really hear them talk too much. And so that's always good when they have from the men. So I say kudos, thank you for stepping up and creating that video. Thank you so very much for that. What's happening, Sean, other than what the video that you want to plug for our people?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then I would hope that if you're not a male, you know what it can the purpose that it can serve for divine feminine people is give you more precision into what you need to do to manifest your twin out of that situation. You know, so like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like the utility, like hearing what it's like from the inside to experience it. Can sort of help you to like make that shift or do what you have to do energetically, or whether you do it through prayer or meditation or soul phone chat or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I would still say that we're still recruiting for the twin flame group therapy. I would like to see, I would actually like to see some men show up to that. You know, I think that like if we had people sort of like in the same room, it would make people more comfortable talking to each other, and it's a way for people to take steps toward the this side and this side taking steps toward each other more so. So I would say that, and you can link off of that from a lot of my YouTube videos. Will link you there, and I would say that of course, I'm doing my body alchemy coaching. I'm actually about to roll out a premium version of that, and that's going to happen this weekend. But that is including the biofeedback system. So we take a vocal print, and I've got some really good software that will, from your vocal print, basically is communicating with your light body directly, so you can know more about what's happening inside of you, whether it's a physical issue, an emotional issue, or even past life issues, and
Mm-hmm.
or even stuff related to your union. So like there's a lot of different options there. I'm actually incorporating that into all services now, so it's there for you, whichever service you do, because I've got panels that match up to each of the services. So we've got that going on. So just check out the services page to see my new offerings, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
All righty then. Thank you. All right, April, what do you have?
Aloha, everybody. I have my book is out. You can now purchase the book or Yoni Steam Seat. It's okay, honey. It's okay if it doesn't fit in here. Okay, we're just gonna put it in the trash. Sometimes we get frustrated over things that may not need to be. Here, go put this in the Apollo, please. My book is done. The first edition, anyway, right? I'm working on a couple other chapters that are going to come up in the future about. Uh, I'm going to do acupuncture with a couple of acupuncturists, and like doula, midwife, natural birthing, and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a big issue in the future that people should really be able to understand and learn their bodies and kind of know how they can do it naturally. We've A lot of people have been so conditioned to think that they have to rely on the medical industry in order to even birth. But we've been here for thousands of years. Okay,
Right.
honey? So it'll be okay. I am promoting yoni steaming, and I've got yoni steam seats going and accompanied with my book, and I'm working on a 46-day reprogram. I wanted to go ahead and take what our current knowledge is of genetics and energy alchemy and shadow work and create a plan for step by step reintegration, including but not limited to people's views on nutrition, how they view their sleeping, how they view their connection with their spirit and their intuition, also releasing trauma from the body. And so I'm really excited to get that course up and running. And I have a whole beta offer right now where it's 444, like $444.44. But if you actually give me a written or a video review, I'm going to return $111 to you that you can do whatever you want with it, which hopefully by that point you're doing some kind of self-care activity and opens yourself into your abundance cycle more so. So that's only for those who join now as the first group. So after this, the price goes up to like 777. I do want to make it accessible, so maybe I'll do a couple less expensive scholarship style with the program. But I'm excited to get things going. The ads are up, you know. I'm getting all kinds of crazy energies from spirit right now, so I just keep going and going, and I'm like, all right, time for a cuddle and a nap. So, and how about you, my sweet divine
Well, my
souls?
course, the seven deadly sins for the twin flames. We got two courses left. I pushed. I had one last week, but then I spirit's like, he showed me a couple of things why I needed to redo that over again, and revisit it. So, we got two courses left. 130 is the last one last day. So that's you can go to divineunisoulslove.co for that. These past life regression sessions too, as well, if you want to be able to get a better understanding as to how things happen, and the patterns that you have. We can set forth when you do underneath the hypnosis. You can create what intentions that you want us as far as the session for us to go find answers for. It doesn't have to be about my twin flame. We could do about karma, how things are pattern that away, why people don't like me. I've had the client say that, and we went through all the different lifetimes that show why people don't like them. So you pick the topic, and we're going now. Lord, it was yeah. You pick the topic. Is this one? You pick the topic, and we will. That's fine. I gotta get in touch
I'm
with
just like scrolling.
no,
Hello,
not
where did
them,
you go?
not them. You pick the topic, and we will go. Go off of that. That's how we'll go with that session. And I had forgotten. I do. I was like, you know what? You haven't even done that, and I haven't done had a too many clients for that. But I do have a trauma release thing. I am certified and trained in that to be able to release trauma from the body as well. It's called MAT. That's the technique, metaphysical anatomy technique, where you go into, we talk about what kind of trauma situation you have, where do you feel it in the body, and energetically work on healing and extracting that from your energy field. And then also, if it's also tied to a certain person, being able to like cut the cords for that connection too as well. So I forgot. It's like spirits like you don't never mention about the MAT, especially with what's going on. And you talk about trauma, I think they kind of would need to know you do that too. So okay, thank you, my manager. So I do that as well. Emotionally, if it's pain in your body or it's emotions as well, I can be able to release that too. So those are two things that I can do. And if you want a reading also as well, I can do that as well. You have to go to divineunisoulslove.co
Are
for
you
that.
gonna
So
like
those are the things
do
that I.
the? Are you gonna do love letters again for the holiday that's coming up?
Thank you. See how the spirit use master say we tell you that, and then now it's using April as a spirit's like she's forgotten about February. That is true. What I did last time, I think I did it for 14,
It doesn't
14.
matter what you did last time. What you gonna do right now?
Yeah,
Let it
I want to
guide you.
talk about the price. I know. I'm trying to figure out what's the pricing. Thank you. Okay, I see what I could do.
I
Okay.
done started her up again. We are actually leaving. I just want y'all to know we love
Right.
you and we wish you have a nice night.
Right. Yeah. I forgot. Thank you. Okay, I'll get that together. Okay, and I should be able to have time now because with the other job I wasn't able to because they took up all my time. So this time I know I'll be free to be able to go into that as well. So yeah, let me come up with a little special for you all and see what for you all, especially for this channel, for you to find out what is your
Special,
loved one thinking of.
special.
Yeah, so maybe make sure to click, like, share, and subscribe to this channel as well. All right, then get us on out of here, April. Oh my
Stay
God.
blessed, stay golden, and remember, you were made for this golden life.
All right. Ooh, wee. All right then, Sean.
Bye.
And as always, stay up, let's stay motivated, stay ascended. Namaste. Now I'ma go. All right then. See ya.